You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Zach Bechtold and Matt Franks. If you'd like to learn more about the Bearded Theologians, you can go online at beardedtheologians.com, where we have past podcasts, blogs, and a couple items for sale. So check us out, beardedtheologians.com. Thank you for listening, and enjoy this week's show. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast, hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, we're jumping back into the lectionary, and we're going to look at the Old Testament reading, Exodus 17, 1 through 7. And so, Zach, I'll let you dive into that as we kick off this podcast this week.
Yeah, certainly. As always, I like to read these things because I assume you're either driving or can't pull out a Bible. So it'd be nice to have the context. So this is Exodus 17, 1 through 7. The whole Israelite community broke camp and set out from the Sin desert to continue their journey as the Lord commanded. They set up their camp in a word I can't say, but no, they're in a place. But there was no water for people to drink. The people argued with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why are you arguing with me? Why are you testing the Lord?" But the people were very thirsty for the water there, and they complained to Moses, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us, our children and our livestock with thirst?" Sounds like they're on a road trip. So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What should I do with this? What should I do with this people? They are getting ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people and take some of Israel's elders with you. Take in your hand the shepherd's rod that you used to strike the Nile River and go. I'll be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. Hit the rock, water will come out of it, and the people will be able to drink." Moses did so while Israel's elders watched. He called the place Massah and Meribah. These are fun words. Because the Israelites argued with and tested the Lord, asking, "Is the Lord really with us or not?" So Matt, what stands out to you in this story?
I know it'll sound bad, but this is the one part that I like. I mean, this definitely works well today. People wanting to come back, we want to come back, and I really do want to give people a stick and just say, "Hey, go hit the stick and see what happens." Not that Moses definitely was a little bit better at that stuff than I am, but I don't know. I see you brought up the idea of the road trip, and this has definitely been a long road trip, and I can only imagine how that would be handling reading it with COVID eyes. Is definitely an interesting thing to think about, the connection between what we're going through of being in a wilderness on our own, and the things that we're looking for, and how people are quarreling and needing and longing for basic things. And so you have that tension, but I love that last question that the people ask, is the Lord among us or not? I think that's a great question to unpack, especially for today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, I find it fascinating because they just left Egypt, right? There was the 10 plagues. There was the parting of the Red Sea. They just the chapter before, they get manna from heaven, right? And so they have these huge experiences. They're led out by Moses. They get this manna from heaven, and now they're like, "Moses, we're thirsty. Can we stop? We gotta pee. We gotta do this." And it's so quick how their attitude and just everything changes of we're free, God is with us, to we're thirsty, where the heck are you? And I think you're right, Matt. Reading this with COVID eyes certainly changes perspective for us, as if we read this a year ago or 3 years ago in the lectionary, right? Of how we would approach it, of, "Oh, they're just being babies and this and that." And it's well, they're under a lot of stress. They want something that's normal. They're thirsty. And so the littlest things are putting them on edge and causing them to come at Moses with this stuff. And I just love that question. Did you bring us out here to die? Did you bring us out here to kill us with thirst? Because it sure seems like it.
It's almost like people realizing that did we follow the right guy, or like do we need to be rescued, do we need to be saved, or
Well, and it's a
like
constant for them, right? As they
yeah.
wander the wilderness of,
I mean,
we were better off slaves.
I mean, I have to admit, like if I were wandering in the desert for 40 plus years, I would probably have the same thoughts. I mean,
Yeah, but this is like day 3, you know.
there are some
Not,
people that would have been the case, and you've been on enough trips to know that. Like, I mean, think back to the Philippines. Like, I mean, we were barely off the plane before people were complaining about things.
yeah,
And
but
so,
that was we were in a hurricane. I think more of like youth trips, and before you even hit the city limits, and you've got a youth that's like, "Why am I here?"
I mean, or you have a youth that, like, I mean, you barely make it 20 minutes out. I gotta pee, and like, I think Moses's response here is good. I mean, definitely, like the thing is, like, he definitely cried out to God, and kind of like some of us now as clergy, what do I need to do with these people? They're not wearing their masks, they're not social distancing. Dear Lord, help me. Like, I mean, and there's some pastors and some clergy that are really feeling like that there are people ready to stone them, and like Moses crying out to God. I think that's something to wrestle with. Like, have you, like, if you're going through a struggle, have you cried out to God? Like, and I say that because, I mean, how often do we do that? Like, and we may say that we do, but like, how often do we make space in our lives to allow that to occur, where we can really, like, I mean, do we really do it? Like, I mean, it's a good question to ask. Do we really? And not just saying, dear Lord, help me, but like literally like lamenting, and like maybe even almost a tradition of like tearing your garment when you're frustrated and sad. Like, I mean, man, that would, I think that's something good to reflect on today.
Well, it really is, because you're right. We may piss and moan and throw rocks and yell at God, but are we making the space to listen? To be present in those moments rather than just venting, because I think there's a difference here in Moses crying out and saying, God, it's rough here, what do I do? And Moses makes his face of listen and then go. He takes the people and they go to the rock, and he hits it, and here we are. I think for us, we tend to be a little impatient, or we want the quick answer, or we just want it all to be better. And unfortunately, we live in the real world where we have to sit in this stuff for a while. And there's truly nothing we can do about it but be present. And so where do we find that hope, or where do we find the presence in God and just crying out? And making that space to hear.
Like I said,
right?
Like we both said, yeah. Oh, definitely the other side too. I think we're okay with like crying out, but like the response of it, are we stepping up and listening, and all those things? Like, I think that gets lost too. I think we were talking about this before we started. Like, man, this would be a fun one. Man, like, this would definitely be a fun one to preach, especially with right now in the middle of a global pandemic that we're in. And I think that's something we lean into with all that's going on. Are we crying out to God? Are we listening to God? And then how are we responding? Because notice, like, now there's a response. Like, Moses sends them out. They go hit the rock, they get the water, and then like they're okay for a couple more days. Like, I mean,
well, and I think, right, the question becomes, are we willing to see the water come from the rock, right? Because that may not be the answer we want, but is where God leading us the answer we need?
Yeah.
Because hitting a rock to get water from it's certainly not the answer you would expect.
No. This is one that's fun to do with youth. And you hand them a stick and you tell them to go try it.
Go hit stuff.
Go hit. Well, no, hit a rock. Don't hit don't hit each other.
Water will come in the form of tears.
You signed a release form.
Okay.
I think we definitely have left you with a lot of questions to think about today. And my hope is that, like, maybe if you're preaching this on Sunday, or you're looking for something to preach and you're listening to this Saturday night, dear Lord God, stop doing this. But I think there's some things that you could wrestle with tonight that I think would be healthy for you, to help you connect in your faith and your life and like all those things, so that like we make it through this together. Like, I really do believe, like, right now is a wilderness time that we're trying to navigate how to get through all this. And like, we're complaining, and we're crying out to God, and there's definitely a lot of sadness along this journey. But like, I do believe we're getting closer to the promised land. I just know we're not there yet. And so we still have to remain faithful to God and lean in and trust God even more. And that's like, I don't know about you, but like on the journey, the worst part of the journey is that last bit, that last quarter. And not that we are in that. I mean, I don't know if we're in that last quarter or not. We won't know until we get there. But like, I do feel like we're kind of, there is a lot. I feel like there's a light at the end of this tunnel in some ways. So.
There is. And I think a very positive and productive one, or could be, for not only the church, but for our individual personal faiths.
Yeah. So we want to encourage you to go to our website at beardedtheologians.com. We've got some great content up. We've had a fun month this month of content. Zach and I are still beaming from our conversation about Five Iron Frenzy. And Ryan Kennedy's conversation last week was just powerful. It is powerful for me. I mean, I blew up my sermon because of the conversation. So that shows you where it was, how good it was for me. So just go in there, buy some things. We've got masks now. We've got all sorts of great things. And so like us, love us, share us, give us the stars. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
First, guys, I want you to subscribe and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.